It's after the hour, 2 o'clock. This is 90.1 FM KPFT Houston, right here in Houston, Texas. The show's called HOWELL the Blues. One of the things we love doing here on the show is bring in performers, musicians from our area and out of the area on tour, and let them know what's going on and find out what's going on in their world and just kind of get an update, especially when they're friends. Today's no exception. We have Mr. Steve HOWELL in the house, and he was here on business, so we kind of piggybacked a little pleasure and work it together. Thank you for coming by, Steve. How you doing?
Thanks for having me, Blue Sand.
It's
always good to see you guys. Yeah.
What's going on in Steve's world these days?
Oh, just working hard up there in the land of the tall women and the virgin pines.
Which is Marshall, Texas. If anybody's
That's
looking for
exactly
that location.
Right.
Let's for those folks out there listening that might not be familiar with who Steve HOWELL is, let's introduce our audience to you and your music. Started off at a very, very early age when you discovered the music of Mississippi John Hurt.
Yeah.
What was it about rural, turn of the century country blues that struck you so quickly and made such a lasting impression on your life?
Well, it's kind of hard to say. At the time, I would have been about 13, as you say. So that would have been 1963 or 4. And at that time, we were getting inundated with a lot of folk music with guys in striped shirts, that couldn't really play too much, singing songs that were great
Kingston
songs,
Trio
not very
and
well.
that kind of,
yeah, right. And some of them were great, don't get me wrong, but I loved the music, and I always wanted to figure out where it came from. And so I started tracking some of it back, just as a matter of interest. And at the time, I was learning to play guitar. And when I heard Mississippi John Hurt, I just thought, well, that's about as real as you want to get when compared to what might not have been so real.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we give a progression of where your musical journey has brought you to this point in time today?
Okay. Well, I started out pretty much like everybody. The Beatles and the Rolling Stones and all of that. At the same time, though, I was wanting to figure out, when I heard the Stones doing King Bee, for example, I want to know where that came from. Who really did that kind of deal? If you look at the Beatles' career, had it not been for a guy named Larry Williams, they would have probably only had 3 songs on their first record. The R&B players and the blues players of that day really piqued my interest. And simultaneously, I was developing an interest in fingerstyle guitar playing and hearing guys like John Fahey and plus Mississippi John Hurt and guys like that. And so I was trying to learn how to play that, and then the repertoire just naturally kind of fell under it. And I've been doing that all these years and played in rock and roll bands and all of that stuff too along the way. Played in some electric blues bands, Texas blues and Chicago blues oriented. But I've never put down my acoustic guitar, I've always enjoyed that, the fingerstyle approach.
When you were talking about finger picking, do you have a preference between the Delta type of blues or the Piedmont type of blues, or is it something just kind of?
Well, being from East Texas, it really is.
It's a fine line, I know.
Yeah,
but this is a very distinct style between the two.
Yes, it is. It certainly is, but it points up what's interesting to me, and that is the old weird America when music was regional, before radio, before records really took hold of our musical diet. There were guys in Appalachia, white guys, playing banjos and fiddles, singing the same stuff they were singing in Mississippi, playing metal-bodied guitars and picking with their fingers. You can hear it. You listen to it back and forth, and you can hear it. Call me a dog when I'm gone, but when I get home with a $50 bill, it's Daddy, where you been so long? That kind of stuff.
Right.
And so a lot of parallels that all point to the commonality of the human condition.
Yeah.
And that regional aspect has always been interesting to me.
Now, we know you weren't always up in the piney woods. You did some traveling over your course of your life.
Yeah, I did. My latter teen years, actually, I kind of wandered around and had adventures like Kano and Kung Fu, lived in Austin, lived in DFW, hung around down here some. Did a hitch in the service and ended up in Key West, Florida, and then in South Wales for 4 years, where I started playing folk clubs and had some British partners along the way and really got interested in what they were doing over there. A lot of finger-picking guitar players over there.
Now, tell me about what you discovered between what you had already learned here and what was going on over in the British Isles, because there was a lot of that music that had migrated over here very early in the the previous centuries.
No question.
That you said, like, wow. I mean, you're talking about go back and rediscovering people like Muddy Waters or Howlin' Wolf or something like this, like Through the Stones, but you go back even further. You go back, several more decades.
And that appreciation of folk music early on. I love a great story song. The British versions of that were always fascinating to me. But what I found out over there was they knew more of the backstory to our music than most people I knew over here. They really did. The roots music styles and everything have been popular over there for years and years and years, whereas they come and go over here. Really interesting,
Now, Steve, you've over the last several years, you've released a number of recordings that have received quite a bit of acclaim. Tell us about these projects and or how people can get a hold of them.
Sure. Well, they're available on Amazon and iTunes and most outlets. My distribution deal is with Burnside in Portland, Oregon.
That's a great company.
Yeah, it's really great company. Really, really nice folks, and really a broad musical sensibility that they have. I've made these records in Shreveport, Louisiana, which I kind of grew up with one foot on either side of the state line, kind of. Shreveport's about 25 miles from Marshall on I-20. And hooked up with some guys over there. Some I'd known for a long time. Some I got to know when I started recording. Had a little studio over there, Sandbox Studios. And so we've made 3 records over a period of about 5 years. And yeah, has been very well received by the critics, at least. And gotten good radio airplay. I mean, guys like you, Bill Wax with XM, they played my first record a bunch last month. And that's 5-6 years after it was released. That's really flattering.
I just heard one of your tracks the other day, as a matter of fact, on XM. We were driving down the road.
Really makes you feel good,
Yeah. Now, you recently received what I consider a really cool award. You want to tell our listeners about that?
Yeah, last summer the Academy of Texas Music gave me the first time ever Founders Award for Historical Significance for my last CD, Since I Saw You Last. And that was really, really nice of them. They're another great group of really nice folks,
Congratulations. That's
thanks.
quite the honor.
Thanks.
Steve Howell here in the studio, if you just tuned in. Been traveling around. He's going to be doing an appearance at the Navasota Blues Festival coming up here on August 10th, 11th. We'll be talking about that a little bit more as the interview unravels. But what I would really like to do is, since you're holding a beautiful guitar, is get you to do some picking here in the studio. We can talk on the other side.
Okay.
What you got lined up for us?
How about an old New Orleans song? Well, I was down in old Joe's bar room on the corner by the square, and the drinks, they were served as usual, and all the usual crowd was there. On my left stood Big Joe McKennedy, and his eyes were bloodshot red. He looked at the crowd all around him, and these are the words he said. He said, I went down to that St. James Infirmary, and I saw my little baby laying down there, stretched out on a long white table, so young, so cool and fair. Let her go, God bless her, wherever she may be. search this whole wide world all over and never find another man like me. Now when I die, won't you bury me in my high-top Stetson hat? Put a $20 gold piece on my watch chain so all the boys will know I'm standing pat. I want 6 crap shooters for my pallbearers and some dancing girls to sing me a song. I want a jazz band on my hearse wagon to raise hell while we stroll along. Now that you heard my story, how about slipping me a little shot of that booze? And if anyone ever should ask you, I got the St. James Infirmary blues. I got the St. James Infirmary blues.
Steve Howell, here live in the studios.
Thank y'all.
KPFT, St. James Infirmary Blues. Now, do we know who actually penned that song?
I don't really know. I mean, you know, Jack
It's listed as one of those
Teagarden.
traditional.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, traditional New Orleans march song kind of deal. Dave Van Ronk. Remember Dave Van
Sure,
Ronk?
absolutely.
Yeah, he did that as Gambler's Blues. There's a lot of versions of it, and that's more closely linked to his, probably.
You do a wonderful version of it.
Yeah, thank you, man.